Hi, this is Alexis, and I'm a travel advisor with Lexi's Travel Company. I started working with Rita for Prep for Wave Week, and I want to say I truly enjoyed myself. I decided to do Wave Week because I've never experienced it before, and I wanted to ensure that I provided my clients with the best possible service that I could. So I wanted to kind of get a feel for what I may expect during that time period. So I listened intently during those presentations. One of my favorites was Berkshire Hathaway and the E&O Insurance. I truly love that one. But if you haven't worked with Rita before, it's amazing. She truly knows what she's doing, what she's talking about. One of my favorites is the lead generator calculator. If you haven't listened to our podcast about that, it's truly amazing how she breaks it down and how to fill in the information. So if you could definitely try to get a one-on-one consult with her and get as much information as you possibly can. Have a great day.
Hello, friends. Welcome back. I am officially back in the office. I had an amazing vacation week with my family and also my boyfriend and then his family. It was a very packed week with some downtime, and then we all even got a little bit of a visit from a hurricane. I know they say Helene, but my German wants me to say Ellen, and I might be wrong on that, so you can feel free to correct me. I kept joking with my boyfriend. I'm like, it's pronounced Ellen, not Helene, but I could be wrong. Maybe I was just trying to fancify the hurricane. I am in Central Florida, so thankfully I am one of the lucky ones that did not get any sorts of damage. We got really lucky here, and so did my family on the west side of Florida. I have family that's close to Bradenton that also fared really well. I also have a family member that does have a condo over in Anna Maria Island that fared decent. There is a little bit of damage, but that's on the ground floor where the garage is, so nothing too terrible. I don't think I had ever seen like so much sand like from the pictures that I was seeing from Anna Maria Island. So it was a weird storm, and that's really because the coast got the brunt of the storm. So if you don't know too much about hurricanes, if you're looking straight at a hurricane on a map, the worst side is going to be that east northeast side, and that is why it was so disastrous in areas like western North Carolina and eastern Tennessee, because they got hit with a lot of that. So I am sending all of my well wishes, and I know there's some people in the travel industry that are running certain things. Like I know Corinne from Travel Biz Boss, Corinne was running a promotion. I'm not sure if she's still running a promotion, but she was doing like a fundraiser for the hurricane victims this time around. So if you wanted to go check that out, just head on over to her social medias, either Facebook or Instagram, and I'm sure she'll have more information. Now, I say that, and I'm not sure if it's still like happening now, but just check in, and you never know. So I just wanted to give quick little update as we head into our re-recording of a session. So it's not a re-recording. I'm just doing like a little replay. I wanted to give you a big teaser of what prep for Wave Week is like and what you can kind of expect, like the chock fullness. And this one, I will say, kind of blew it out of the water. This is a session with Miguel Campos on E&O Insurance for your travel agency. And it is a really great just refresher. This was it went live on Foundations Day, which is our day one. So if you didn't know, if you're kind of like new, you're like, Rita, what is this Prep for Wave Week thing? It is my annual virtual event. It is the 4th year that I am putting this event on, and I'm so stinking excited about this because this is really like my Super Bowl. This is my baby event that I put a lot of heart and soul, and I'm just beaming with pride of all the things that we're able to accomplish this year, because there are a couple of new things. So many of you, if you've attended Prep for Wave Week in the past, you know it is a 5-day virtual event content. There's 3 sessions that come out every single day. Sessions vary widely, and that's really because I'm a curious person, so I might ask a lot of questions in one session, especially if the vibes are going. So some sessions are like 20 minutes, and some sessions are close to an hour. The nice thing about Prep for Wave Week is that you do have ongoing access, so if like you need to pause and do something at work, or pause to take care of the kids or anything, or if you're traveling, you'll still have access no matter like what day you're listening to. So that's been the most popular question. Are the sessions recording? Yes, the sessions are totally recorded for you. Each day is split up into foundations, operations, marketing, sales, and expansion so that you do focus on a different area within your travel business. So let me give you like a little peek, because I don't think last week I had mentioned some of the speakers and what they're talking on. So on Foundations Day, we have Margie Jordan of Jordan Executive Travel, making business decisions from data, not drama. I was a little cheeky when I put these titles together. Then yours truly, I will be speaking, and I will be talking about one of my favorite subjects, planning your revenue by working backwards. And then last but not least, on Foundations Day, we have Jamie Savage of Adventure Awaits, and her topic is power moves to work less and make more. So Foundations Day this year, I feel, is a little bit more advanced foundations on like basics that you really need to know to run your business and the other areas of your business effectively. What you're going to notice, there is a common theme of we are going to turn your travel hobby mindset into a travel CEO mindset. Like that is the big focus. If the lights haven't clicked on yet that this is a business to make money and you are in a sales role, you will quickly find that out within Prep for Wave Week, because our speakers are super generous with sharing a lot. Like you're going to hear not only like from experts, but you're also going to hear from travel advisors and their journeys in their travel businesses. So Tuesday's Operations Day, we have Courtney Nichols. She was on a previous Prep for Wave Week, and we've done podcast interviews before. I just love how she thinks about business and talks about business. She is from the Travel Bash, is her travel agency, but she is also putting an event that I would say is equal-ish caliber of Prep for Wave Week, where we are really talking about the business of having a business, not just some of like the other fluffy type of topics that might come with owning and being in the travel business, but being an entrepreneur. And that event's called the Biz Huddle. It's coming next July, so stay tuned and you'll get some links and things within Prep for Wave Week. But her topic is ditch the hobby mindset and operate like a CEO. Then we have Christy Durso of Incredible Memories Travel, working with accessible clients. Christy is someone who uses a wheelchair, and she is an amazing speaker. I have invisible illnesses, like they're physical, but you can't like really see that I have an illness. And I even learned a couple things about working with different types of accessible clients, especially those who need wheelchair access. She's a huge advocate and a voice within the industry for that. And she speaks very frequently about these types of topics. And then last but not least, we have Stephanie Cannon of With Stephanie Cannon. I feel like Stephanie is sometimes like one of my partners in crime. She talks a lot about finances within your business. She's a travel advisor and a CPA. And her topic is cut the money mess with systems to get you sorted. Then we head over to Wednesday, which is our marketing day. We have Kristen Richards of Inflow Design Co., who also happens to be a premier partner for Prep for Wave Week, how to make your travel brand appear more high-end. Then we have a social media expert. I follow her on Instagram. Her name's Sarah Weiss of On Brand by Sarah. Selling on social media is her topic, and we really do talk a lot about stories and reels in that discussion. And then last but not least, Kirsten Andrade is a Travel Age West winner. She's with FG Luxury Travel. And the reason that she won was for an innovative marketing technique. So her topic is marketing with masterclasses. And You definitely do not want to miss out on this, especially if you're wanting to market your business in a very innovative way. Thursday is sales day because you are in a sales position. So we have Scott Rutz of Travify. Travify is one of our presenting partners for the event. He's speaking on innovative sales techniques, closing deals, and boosting revenue. Then we have Jackie Williams, who's another really great friend of mine within the industry. She's a travel advisor, and she also does coaching and consulting for travel advisors. Her topic is increase your revenue with trip management fees. And then last but not least on that day, this was something that came directly from my focus group session this summer. One of the travel advisors, you know who you are, was like, can we just do like how they do on cruise ships and do a love and marriage panel, but do it with different travel advisors at different stages of their business? So we have a travel advisor within the first 2 years of her business, another one within 5 years of her business, and then the last one has 10 years in business, but definitely over 10 years within the travel industry. So we have Judy Lombardi of Memories on the Move Travel, Leah Udice of Trova Travel Group, and then Steven Scott of Travel Hub 365. Their panel is called Love and Marriage, Travel Agency Style. And then we have expansion. So we've got kind of like the basics taken care of. What can we really do within our business to think out of the box, to go out of the box? So I have brought, like, there is a very unique lineup here. And you'll see, I like to, every year, like, kind of brings its own differences and unique qualities to it. So we're talking about expanding your circle of influence is the first topic with Kim Specht of the Travel Institute. Then we have Angelique Johns of the Wanderlux Collection. She has a hotel representation company. Her topic is differentiating your services with hotel representation. I did not even know anything about hotel representation until probably 8 years into my travel business. This is not a widely talked about topic unless you are very luxury and you work with a host agency or a consortia that puts you in front of a lot of hotel representation. So I am super excited. Like, if you're wanting to really set your services apart, working with a hotel representation company is one way to do that. So I'm super excited about this conversation with Angelique. And then last but not least, another Travel Age West winner. Have you heard of the Taylor Swift themed cruise and how that sold out and got so much media hype everywhere? Like, I was seeing it everywhere this past year. So I have those amazing ladies talking to us about their explosive group with a tailored group cruise theme. Jessica Mailerman, Shelby Reyes, and Nicole Rivera of In Your Cruise Era. Like, that is going to be, like, if you are wanting, they were able to sell out a 199 cabin. I was going to say passenger, but it was a cabin. And actually, they'll be sailing probably a week after, a couple days after Prep for Wave Week goes live. So they're going to share a little bit. And it doesn't even like go through just these different topics here, but there are some amazing promos that are happening because our speakers, some of our speakers and our partners have contributed to the first ever virtual swag bag. So everybody that registers for Prep for Wave Week gets access to the swag bag. If you decide to upgrade your Prep for Wave Week pass, you'll also get access to Study Hall. Study Hall really is a fan favorite. And this year I have brought along co-hosts to be with me. So I have different partners co-hosting with me. On Monday, Foundations Day, we have Dora Karanikas of Lux Pages, which is like the yellow pages for luxury travel. On Tuesday, we have Debbie Corwin of TA Toolkit. On Wednesday, we have Kristen Richards of Inflow Design Co. Thursday, we have Stephanie Grice of Travify. And Friday, we have Carla Fritz, who is a co-pilot with Lucia, which is kind of like the Upwork for the travel industry. So if you are wanting to get access to those co-hosts and be able to pick the brains of some of these amazing partners that we have, you'll want to upgrade to the study hall pass, which is $35. You also get access to a private podcast feed to listen to all the recordings. So if you're kind of like, I don't want to be in front of the computer, like watching these interviews the whole time, you can also just listen to them on your private podcast feed. And then I'm also instituting action sheets so that you can take immediate action and also get some of the top highlights from each of the presentations. Now, there is another upgrade option, but I'm going to wait until next week because I feel like I've talked a lot about Prep for Wave Week now, giving you a little bit of a tidbit. Now I want to give you a taste of the action of what you're going to experience at Prep for Wave Week with this interview with Miguel Campos of Berkshire Hathaway. If you're interested, you're already like, let's sign me up. It's prepforwaveweek.com/register. And if you have any questions about any of the upgrades, feel free to shoot me an email and I'd be happy to assist you with that as well. And of course, please share this information with your fellow travel pros. If anything has resonated about what this event is to help prepare you for a new wave of business in 2025, and you think travel advisors you know would find it useful, I do have an affiliate program for Prep for Wave Week so that you can get your buddies signed up using your link as well. All right, without further ado, let's get into this replaying of a Prep for Wave Week interview last year. Alrighty, so without further ado, welcome Miguel to Prep for Wave Week.
Well, thanks for having me, Rita. I am very excited to be here. I love the opportunity to do platforms like this, just because specifically E&O Insurance is this elusive creature, and not just in the travel world, but in all worlds. You know, we're all purchases of some sort of insurance. Business insurance specifically is a whole nother animal compared to your home and auto and life insurance. And E&O specifically is quite different. And travel E&O is very different from the type of E&O insurance you would get as a financial planner, an attorney, just because of the different risks faced by people, travel agents, tour operators that are working with foreigners and sending people to foreign countries. So we're excited to be here to kind of go over some things and have a conversation about it.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you kind of brought that up, because I guess the more that I dove into E&O, I was like, oh, there's a lot of industries that utilize E&O. So for people who are like, I don't know what you're talking about, what's E&O Insurance?
So E&O is an acronym, stands for Errors and Omissions Insurance. But just a piece of information for you that's important to understand is E&O goes by many different names in this industry as well as in the European markets. So commonly you'll also hear it referred to as, here's some acronyms: CPL, PL, or just E&O, which CPL stands for Commercial Professional Liability. PL stands for Professional Liability. On the top of our policies, you'll see Commercial Professional Liability, and then there'll be a subheading that says Travel Agent and Tour Operator Specific Insurance. So all of those different names essentially mean the same thing. Professional liability is the type of insurance that someone who sells a service versus a product would need to help protect itself. Like the Lego company sells a product that someone could choke on, or it's painted with some sort of a paint that could later, 20 years from now, turn out to have some sort of adverse effect. So they have some sort of a product liability that may fall under a general liability policy 4 times removed, meaning that there's all kinds of other insurance that sort of fall under a general umbrella term. Professional liability is the same thing. Our particular policy, without going into everything before we go back and forth here, is designed specifically for the needs of a travel agent and or a tour operator. So it's a hybrid policy. You're not going to, if you were to go out to the insurance market yourself, typically you're not going to find this specific policy unless you reach out to us directly, because it mixes general liability and professional liability together. So if you're ever working with an insurance broker and you're trying to get this insurance, they may reference GL, they may reference PL, they may reference E&O. Our policy is a mix of all of those, which most insurance brokers are not used to. So there is a lot of confusion in the market when you see a product like ours and you're comparing it to others. And rightfully so, there should be a little confusion because it's not a general type of policy. It is designed specifically for this industry, and it's all encompassing of a lot of different products that come under one form called the commercial professional liability form.
Okay.
but for this industry.
Okay. Because I know when I first started my business, officially 13 years ago as of Friday, I like signed my host contract. I did all the things like with the state, made an LLC. And I think like in the top 5 was I got E&O, E&O Insurance.
Yep.
Where would you say is that like the best place where people should be getting E&O insurance is before they're taking clients?
Yeah, so you want to, I mean, functionally, you want to make sure that you have coverage in place before you're disseminating any marketing material, before you're soliciting business, and absolutely before you are making, giving any advice or sending any itineraries out for approval, or even if you're working on setting up a custom itinerary, and before you're getting any kind of down payment. If you get the insurance after that, you're still covered, but you're not covered for anything before that. So if I were to send you an itinerary for some awesome trip to Portugal and you love it and everything's good, and then you get insurance later on and nothing changes with that itinerary, and then we pay for it after the insurance is in place. If there's a claim somehow related to the specifics of that itinerary, there's a good chance it wouldn't be covered because you sent the itinerary out that they ended up purchasing before you had your insurance in place. So,
Gotcha.
one thing I always tell people when you're shopping for insurance, if you already know you're going to get the insurance, don't waste time thinking about it if you're already going to spend the money. Because every day, if somebody calls you up this weekend and you're thinking about getting your insurance, even though you know you're going to get it or you're required to get it by your host or something like that, if you book somebody's trip this weekend because even if it's a friend trip, they call you and it's like, yeah, we'll book this world cruise or whatever, and then you were going to get the coverage on Monday anyways, that trip you just booked isn't covered. And it may be the only claim you ever have with me in 30 years of being a partner with me. And the claim's going to end up being denied. So I've had that happen a few times, and I've done this for 13 years. So I just put that out there. If you're going to get the insurance, you're already doing business or you're pretty much set up to go. Unless you know for a fact that no matter what, if somebody calls me to book $10 million this weekend, I'm still not going to do it until I have my insurance. Don't put yourself in a weird position where you were going to get the insurance anyways. Somebody calls you sooner and you book the travel, but you don't have the insurance till Monday or a scenario like that. That's just probably not good business for you. So keep that in mind. It's not retroactive, and it doesn't matter what insurance your company you're with. Insurance is never retroactive unless you already have an existing policy in place that matches the policy you're going to. So you're switching insurance companies. That's the only time it's retroactive, and only if the insurer approves it. They may not like the other insurance company that you had or the other insurance types of coverage that they had, and they might deny retroactive coverage for one reason or another. So just keep that in mind. And if none of this makes sense after this call, but you just remember some of this stuff, retroactive, not retroactive, ask your agent if you have one.
Awesome. Okay. So I know a lot of people, they're either saying that they have E&O or don't have E&O. I think this is also a good time to kind of, especially when you brought up general liability. So what would you say are the top 3 to 5 things or reasons that we should have E&O insurance?
Yeah. So, insurance, first and foremost, I think the entire world learned a little thing or two coming out of COVID for 3.5 years. If not only, we learned that things that we thought were impossible actually aren't necessarily that impossible. And, not necessarily business related per se, but coming out of all of the different global catastrophes that we have seen between wildfires and flooding and civil unrest, that seemingly we've had 4 years of craziness all over the world. Now, granted, most of that stuff is not insurable, okay, but it does prove the point that crazy stuff happens. These are things that no one thought would ever happen in their wildest dreams, and yet they all happened in like a 4-year time span, just kind of one after the other. So being aware that unlikely things do happen, we all know this now, and you need to plan for those things, however absurd they feel. So some of the things to consider are, how big is my business and how new am I? If you have a very large business, you have an increased likelihood of a claim at some point. Doesn't matter, and this is the common misconception, it doesn't matter if you don't make a mistake. You may be perfect at your job, but A, mistakes do happen, and B, even if you don't make a mistake, if somebody could be injured on a trip, or somebody could just simply blame you, even though you did everything correctly, they could simply blame you and try to hold you liable in a court of law. And at
Okay.
that point in time, you have to go and now defend yourself. And yes, this does happen a lot in a given year. A lot of these suits get thrown out, but you need to show up to court with an attorney to make a case in order to have it thrown out.
Okay.
So it's important to understand how big your business is affects the need for coverage and how much coverage you're going to get. Also, post-COVID, we've seen a ton of people coming into the travel space, which is awesome. It was kind of going the other way prior to COVID. And then all of a sudden it literally did a 180. I mean, even my senior advisors are just kind of like, what happened? I mean, I'm glad it's happening, but this is interesting. So there's a lot of new people coming into the market and don't understand all of the risks. And some of the stuff we'll go over today will probably scare some people, but that you're not aware. But that's good. You don't know what you don't know. And it's important that you find out what that stuff is. And if you're new, you really need to understand, what your risks are and understand that you don't know what you don't know. And it's important to figure that information out by coming to places like this, or doing searches online, or talking to your hosts or your consortiums, etc. Because new agents are also, you have smaller sales, but you're new to the industry. There's a lot of different things to learn about, a lot of easy mistakes that can be made, a lot of easy mistakes that can be made that can cost you a lot of money. 20 years ago, you made a mistake in an airline booking and it cost you $50 to change. I mean, you could just change the city you're going to, not a big deal. Nowadays, if you make a simple mistake, I mean, it could cost you $375 minimum plus a gas surcharge, plus the fare increase. And you've got 8 people that you have to do that for. Now you've got a $15,000 loss on your hands. How are you going to fix that? You may be able to afford to fix it, but that's a lot of money to lose in a single instant.
Right.
And you've got the whole year of business left and tons of customers left to deal with where there could be other mistakes. So understanding where you are in the risk profile. Are you new and more susceptible to claims because you don't know what you don't know? Or have you been in the industry for a long time and you just have a lot of volume and it's just a matter of time before something goes wrong, or before you have a customer that's unruly or unsavory and holds you liable for something you've never imagined before? So those are some main things. Other things are going to be like, what type of travel are you doing? Are you just doing cruises, or are you doing bespoke custom itinerary making where there's 20 different vendors that you're dealing with and the taxi guy might not show up on time? And all of a sudden you have this domino effect of losses now for a $20 cab that's now led to $18,000 worth of missed travel.
Oh, wow.
You didn't see that coming.
Right.
These are things that, and we don't expect people to contemplate it, all of these situations. This is why insurance exists.
Right.
We've contemplated them for you. And we have the case studies. We see that different claims come through. So understanding, what kind of business you're in is going to determine how necessary coverage is and at what level. If you're an adventure tour operator, if you do lots of scuba or lots of safaris, those are all things that are considered higher risk. And there's a reason why. So if you disagree, I understand, but there is a reason why those are considered higher risks, and probably should make you consider, more so than the other person that's just doing cruises, mandating insurance for yourself, because those types of losses, while infrequent, they're heavy losses. And usually the consumers that you're dealing with aren't going to take, "Oh, I'm sorry," as an acceptable answer and moving on. They're the kind that will and can afford to hold you liable in court. So being aware of that is extremely important. Also, consumers, they're just getting more and more savvy. And I would say COVID made consumers a lot more savvy than pre-COVID, in that they want to work with a travel agent or a tour operator that is legitimate. And half of being legitimate, in not just my opinion, is you're a business in the United States. It's just assumed you have insurance.
Right.
It's assumed you have a bank. It's assumed you have an accountant or an equivalent.
Right.
And some sort of legal advice or access to it. And it's becoming more assumed, specifically of the travel industry, that you have an LLC corporation set up. These are things that, while yes, you have to pay someone to do these things, that's nothing bad on that individual selling it to you. These are just expectations that are standard across the industry for all industries, and more so now with the travel industry because it was highlighted for 3 years.
Hugely.
So that's another big thing, is just your consumers are demanding it more. And along with consumers, I would say you are also dealing with, we've seen an uptick in travel agents and tour operators working with like governmental entities, schools, colleges, affinity groups, even certain hosts and consortiums that are requiring you to A, have insurance, and B, have a specific amount of insurance as well to be considered legitimate or to work with these entities. Doing national parks, we have hundreds of tour operators that do just national parks. Not a lot of risk there, but it's on governmental property, and the U.S. government doesn't want to be held liable for something that happens in those parks with your consumer. So it's not unheard of to have $2 and $5 million limits, which $5 million limit, that's absurd, but we are starting to see it, which just goes to show you that insurance is on everybody's mind.
Yeah.
Not just the person selling it to you, not just the host requiring it of you, like everybody in the United States and across the world. It's on everybody's mind because they just want to be protected or know that there's an option there to protect the parties involved. And that's really what this is.
Yeah. And I think that was like a huge thing, especially coming out of COVID and companies that are no longer in business or are doing business as different entities now. It's just on everybody's radar to not only protect yourself, but just be a responsible and ethical business owner. And I think that's kind of like where insurance comes to play, because like you mentioned, we don't know everything. And like, there's possibilities that may not have even been dreamt of. And that's why you do invest in insurance, so that you can cover that. Now, I know when we're talking about wave season, either people are getting policies or renewing their policies. So what are some things or like some variables that they should be paying attention to? Because I know it's always like, are you going to be increasing business? Are you reducing business? Like where do you want your business to be focusing?
Sure. So you're just asking, what people should be contemplating as we go into wave season and they're renewing policies or seeking new policies.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you're working with us or any insurance, professional for that matter, as a travel agent, tour operator, a lot of things we're looking for post-COVID, and that'll make sense as I go through everything here, is what are your gross sales at? Obviously, for 3 years, no one had any sales. That's not an acceptable answer anymore. And, from an underwriting perspective, we have seen, I can tell you, of the several thousand insureds we have, over 7,500, almost everybody has seen banner year for sales, as in like, this is the best year they have ever done, like ever. So you want to make sure you've got good sales numbers. And this is gross sales. Now, this is extremely important because 13 years of doing this, it's every week I've got about 10 people that have a different understanding of what gross sales mean. Gross sales, the easiest way to understand this is, what is your consumer paying for their trip, and do you add any kind of fees on top of that?
Right.
Like operation fees or what have you, or booking fees. So if you have a $1,000 flight and $1,000 cruise and $1,000 fee to do that for them, that's $3,000 in gross sales. That's what the number that we need, because that's the risk your consumer has. If everything goes wrong with that trip, they're out $3,000. Or you're out $3,000, depending on who's paying for what to fix the situation. Not your commissions, not net revenues, which is what you're actually making, not your EBITDA if you're like a very large company. It's what is the consumer, what's coming out of their checking account for this trip. That is the gross sales that we're looking for. It's extremely important to get that number correct, especially if you're not working with Berkshire Hathaway Travel Protection. And here's why. Because if you give somebody your commissions and you have a claim and they audit your account and they find out you're doing $3 million in sales, not 300,000, they're going to deny your claim. Now you can appeal it. You can get an attorney and appeal it, but there's a very good chance that insurance company is going to win that case against you. So, and this is a scenario where you just might not understand what gross sales means, or you're misunderstanding it, but it's on you as the consumer, because the adjuster does not work with your sales associate, your insurance broker at all, because he can't have that conflict of interest. So the adjuster isn't going to care that you don't understand what gross sales are. They're just going to audit, Well, Rita said she only does 300,000 in sales, so we rated her on 300,000. She filed a claim for $1 million loss. We audit it. She's actually got $3 million in sales, substantially incorrect. That's false information. They'll deny the claim. So it's important.
Wow, that's huge.
Yeah, it's extremely important. Now, that doesn't mean the insurance company has to do that. Okay.
Mhm.
Just so I don't want to misspeak in that matter. They may see that, audit that, and still be okay with it. But that's not the point. The point is that you've given them the ability to deny the claim if they so choose and it be legitimately denied.
Mhm.
So that is extremely important to understand gross sales and what that is and to make sure you get it correct. If you're new, then I always tell people, pretend your insurance company is like a banker. If you go in and request money, you need to have a business plan. Otherwise, every bank, no matter who it is going to be like, no, thank you. It's the
Right.
same thing with insurance companies. You can't come to the insurance company and say, I have no idea what I'm going to do. That's not a legitimate answer. You don't have to send me a business plan, but you need to take what's in here, what's in your head, and disseminate that in some form or fashion to us. Like,
Mhm.
what is it that got you into this? And when you work with us, we can, if you set up a call, we can work on a consultative approach with you to sort of like lead you in a direction, because we work with thousands and thousands and thousands of new businesses. So we understand where you're likely going to fall by asking certain questions. But just know it's not unreasonable on our end to say, listen, we need to have some level of understanding of where you're going. Otherwise, you don't have a business, is from a numbers perspective.
Right.
And it's okay to say, I just don't really know. Can we set up a time to go over this? And we can help you out. Do that. We have seen that more frequently, which is why our call volume takes a few more days than normal. Before it was like instantly we'd be talking to you. Now it's a couple of days, because we do have so many new agents that are taking advantage of the fact that we have agents here to provide you,
Okay.
and we can go through this with you. That isn't the case for a lot of insurance carriers. There's a
Mhm.
difference between an insurance carrier and maybe your insurance broker. We're the ones with the money paying the claims, but
Mhm.
we also provide you agents to go over questions, comments, concerns, etc.
Okay.
So take advantage of that, because it's unique in our particular business model.
Yeah. Let's dive into a little bit of like real world scenarios. I know you touched a little bit on adventure travel.
Yep.
And where adventure travel has more risk. And so I know a lot of people are either new to the industry, existing in the industry, and they're just changing niches or what they're offering. And like, can you give us, I guess, like a rough definition of what adventure means and kind of like the different levels? Because I know
Sure.
so many people, like I've heard somebody use the term soft adventure recently, and somebody had to price his adventure or like his E&O because it went way up, and he's like, I'm not planning to do like life-threatening vacations here.
Sure.
And so
No,
just
that's
the breadth that the word adventure carries.
sure. Yeah. So just so everybody knows, and first of all, we want to make sure we get the correct rating, regardless of if it's in your favor financially or not, because at the end of the day, even if it's not in your favor, it's got to be the correct rating. Otherwise you can have denied coverage, and then you just wasted your money. So I'll preface this conversation by saying that. So adventure travel, basically anything that has an increased risk of loss or injury is the generic version of that. Now, I know from a marketing perspective, to your point, Rita, about this other individual you're speaking about, we have had a lot of people, especially post-COVID, that have sort of rebranding and using cool key marketing terms, which are great, and there's nothing wrong with that. But just know that they do have an initial financial consequence on the insurance side of things, until you maybe have a deeper conversation to really understand. And I just had one of these yesterday. A person talked about adventure travel, only to find out that their version of adventure and ours are entirely different. They're just using that as more of a key term.
Right.
That's it. They're not actually doing any kind of really adventure travel. So adventure travel, some takeaways are going to be things like alpine skiing, trekking adventures, scuba diving, anything with animal riding, equestrian specifically, MiG jet fighter flights, tank flight, or tank, I don't even know what you call it, tank operations, being able to drive tanks. I've got a
Oh,
company that
wow.
specifically does that, old Russian, I
Oh,
guess, war
wow.
machines that they're able to use. So like that is considered adventure. They're higher risk of injury in that particular case. What else? paragliding. Ziplining does fall under adventure travel. However, if you're a cruise agent and you're simply booking a cruise and they can get their ziplining excursions on their own accord, then that wouldn't apply to you. That they're doing that on their own terms. There is a risk that they could hold you liable if you had simply mentioned it to them, but we're not really that concerned with that. It's if you're the one booking the excursion for them on the cruise that has ziplining.
Okay.
That falls under adventure. Let's see, mountainous types of excursions, ice climbing, rock climbing, mountain climbing. We've had a lot of that lately. And now there's like literally no insurance company that will insure any kind of mountain climbing. We're the last one that will even consider it.
Oh, wow.
So our largest competitor back in the day used to be Zurich Insurance, which fell under Aon. They, as you may or may not be aware of in the audience, during COVID, they pulled out and dropped all insureds, several thousand insureds, just kind of like that. We're gone. So we were the only option. There is a new option that Aon works with, and Aon's an insurance broker. They're not an insurance carrier. They just broker it. They find you products to sell you. But they work with Arch Insurance, but their coverage is substantially different than its predecessor, than the Zurich program. There's a lot less coverage, and that may be why Zurich got out of the market. I don't know, but they have since fixed those losses by adjusting their insurance to have a lot more exclusions than the previous policy had.
Okay.
And you're seeing that across the whole board. And I say this in an informative way for people, not in a negative way. Ever since COVID, more and more insurance companies have no interest in insuring the travel or tour operator industry. The losses were too heavy, and I think too many insurance companies didn't really understand the intricacies of a travel agent or a tour operator, and so they just insured them, not realizing the losses that they actually faced. And so now have either stepped out of the market, or you'll see some of the online travel agencies or online insurance companies that'll have a travel related policy. But if you go through the coverage, you'll see a lot of exclusions that our policy doesn't have. And I only say that not as a plug to our own thing, but we're the only company now that exists that's been doing this for 35 years and says travel agent and tour operator on the policy. It's important to know because people are going to use Google out there, and you don't want to get the wrong policy and not know for 10 years until you have your first claim, and then it's not covered.
Yeah.
And it has never been covered for 10 years because you bought the wrong policy or you didn't buy enough coverage, because the insurance company is not going to send you an I'm sorry, card or anything like that. That's up to you to determine the coverage you need and read over that ridiculously long policy and understand it. So just understanding that when you go into it, there is a process and that you should take some time and do a little bit of research, and you should be talking to people. Like if you don't have an agent there to talk to, buyer beware. Because this is business
100%.
insurance. And I would say that about any company. I would say that about our own. Understand what you're buying, take advantage, talk to who you need to talk to understand it, because it's good for both of us. We want you to understand your policy, because I'm going to be your agent. So I want all my customers as educated as possible, because it's a better relationship for us both.
Hi friends, Rita here. Sorry to kind of like swoop on in as in the middle of like all the goodness that Miguel is saying. My interview with Miguel ran very long because it is so good and so juicy. So we are going to make this a 2-part episode. Stay tuned because in part 2, Miguel goes to open Q&A, which means that he's answering some of your questions from the live feed from last year's Prep for Wave Week. And we're talking we're jumping in with cybersecurity, which I know is a huge thing, especially with all the AI stuff that's happening around, to protect not only you, but also your clients from any threats and all that. So stay tuned again next week. I'll also give you some more spilling of the beans on the Plan Your Year session and everything else with Prep for Wave Week. So I am looking forward to seeing you back here next week. You have an amazing week. And again, if you haven't registered, make sure you're registered for Prep for Wave Week. See you.